Omar from the third rail. Hope everybody's doing good. Everybody's doing all right. Yeah, let me get out of this, guy. Let me get to this. See, every time we do something. All right, here we are. This is Omar from the third rail. We haven't been on for a long time. Did not feel like doing any live or any video. Sometimes you just get into this mix of you're tired or you're mentally exhausted or you're depressed. But sometimes you just gotta talk when you have to talk. You understand? And you see what I'm talking about. We have to say something. The United States is not going to go to war for Netanyahu. The United States is not going to let his children die in the deserts of Arabia again because of the criminal behavior of the Zionist project inside Israel. We're tired of this. We want to know or define what is who is a terrorist and what is terrorism, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Let me see. What we are witnessing is the deliberate war criminal who has killed 17,000 children, and now he's killing. He's attacking Lebanon, attacking Iran. He's trying to start a regional war because he knows that the Israeli armies are cowards and they're not gonna fight face to face. We all know that. So you have to take into consideration what's going on right now. In one day, he attacked Lebanon and killed the second leader. And at the same time, he attacks a sovereign nation like Iran and kills a guest of the president inside Iran. Now imagine you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of killing the Hamas political leader? Remember, the person he killed is not part of the military wing. He doesn't carry weapons. He hasn't killed anybody. He hasn't shot anybody. He is the political wing of Hamas. What it means is he's like the spokesperson, the leadership, the guiding that speaks to the world, to the press. Now, if you're trying to get your hostages out, which Netanyahu is claiming to wants to do, he has killed almost half of them that are inside. Why are you killing the person you're going to negotiate with? The last time, the same thing. They were negotiating a ceasefire, and he killed the second in command in Beirut. Remember a couple months ago. Then they were about to do another deal. He killed he blew up the embassy inside Syria of Iran. Every time they get close to a ceasefire or to stop the fighting, he will create a situation and try to agitate a response that will bring in the United States. Now, Netanyahu just came back from the United States. Imagine inviting Hitler to give a speech to your legislative bodies. This is the same thing. 55 standing ovation in 55 minutes by the United States Senate and the United States House, the House of Representatives. For what? This man, Netanyahu, is a child killer. He kills children. For what? Why are you clapping for who? He has killed men, women, and children, 50,000. And according to Lancet, a publication in London, if you really do the count, the direct and indirect killing, it's almost 186,000 people that have been killed inside Gaza. That's about 8% of the population. And just imagine the Palestinian is still painted as the terrorist, the leader of terrorists, Hamas. You know, the Israelis, when they get on TV, they could say Hamas. They say Hamas or Hezbollah. Who are the terrorists? I need to know. We need a definition. Okay, Netanyahu has killed almost 15 to 17,000 children. The average age is 5 years old. Killed more than 10, 12,000 women and more than 10,000 citizens. and he is invited by the United States Congress to give a speech. And the most embarrassing moment in American history, when we invited a mass murderer to our country to give a speech and gave him 55 standing ovation. Now, you have to understand what Netanyahu wants. Netanyahu came in here, he got the standing ovation, he got the lie for 55 minutes. Everything he said was a lie if you double check it. But the United States media is too scared, you know. Let's be honest, man. The Zionists control the media in the United States. I'm going to say, I don't give a damn no more. The Zionists control the United States media. I dare CNN or MSNBC or Fox News to fact check Netanyahu's speech when he was giving it and getting a standing ovations for it. They're too scared. So he goes back. The Israeli Knesset is going to take a 3-month leave of absence, like vacation. The ceasefire, they're about to make a deal, and he wants to ruin that. So he's like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to create havoc, and I'm going to force the United States of America to fight with Iran. Now, as an American citizen, and anybody who hears me, don't let your children go fight in the Middle East for no reason. The real criminal is the Israeli entity and the Jewish settlers who are killing Palestinians, raping them. They're raping men. And when the Israeli army said, oh, enough is enough, I think we're going to hold 9, and the Israeli army arrested 9 soldiers for raping a man so bad that they had to take him to the hospital. You know what happened? The religious right, the Jewish settlers, the Moses boys came down and broke down the military base. They wanted to get these people out. Unbelievable. A matter of fact, they had a debate in the Knesset, which is what means like Congress. Is it all right to rape Palestinians? All these people, they came into a military base to free 9 Israeli soldiers who gang raped a Palestinian man to the point where he almost died, and they had to take him to the hospital. The New York Times did a report before Netanyahu came to the United States that the Israeli army was using hot rods, electric rods, and inserted them in the anus of Palestinian soldiers. Palestinian prisoners. These are the evil. The Israelis are the evil ones. The Israelis are the evil people, not the Palestinian people. Believe me when I tell you that. They are breaking into the military base to rescue 9 rapists who raped another man. You understand? So Netanyahu took this opportunity. First, they did that false flag. Remember when they an Israeli drone rocket bombed an Arab village in the Golan Heights, an Arab village, a Syrian Arab village, and killed 12 Arab Jewish children. And the Israelis said, no, they can't kill our children. They murdered our children. This was a false flag, but the Israelis, they don't want to kill their own. So they decided to kill these Jews. A matter of fact, in this village, there's about 11 to 15,000. The population is about 15 to 10,000. 80 to 90% refuse to recognize Israel as the sovereign country over them. They still have their loyalty to Syria, and they consider their villages and towns as occupied territories from the 1967 war. In 1981, Israel offered them citizenship. The Druze in the Golan Heights refused to become Israeli citizens and still consider themselves part of Syria. Imagine killing Arabs and avenging the killing of Arab children by killing Arab children in Lebanon and creating this craziness. This guy is evil. Netanyahu is a war criminal. He should be arrested. He should be put in jail. He's going to have an international an arrest warrant by the International Court of Justice, which the United States refused to accept. The United States only if it's African presidents, or they call it the International Caucasian Court, because most of the people that are indicted are African leaders or African people, black. So the whole idea was, Netanyahu wants, right now he has killed the leader of Hamas inside a sovereign nation, Iran, which about a month ago they had a problem. Remember when they blew up their embassies in Syria, and Iran responded in a shamble in a game. It was like a movie. We're gonna attack. It's gonna be around 7 o'clock. So we're gonna send all these stuff, and you have to intercept them. We just got to do this because we have to save face. Well, the Iranians are stuck because they don't want to fight the United States. The Iranian knows what Netanyahu wants to do. He wants to pit the United States against Iran like he did in 2003 against Iraq. That was the war that the Jewish neocons, that's right, you could look it up, 25 Jewish neocons like Bill Kristol, Wolfitz, and Pearl, and all these scumbags were the one to incite the war against Iraq for the sake of Israel's national security, because we had no problem with Iraq. So they want to do a repeat, but the United States has had enough. The Iraqi war turned out to be a disastrous war. The Afghanistan, 20 years of nothing, running around chasing people in slippers. And at the end, we gave back their country. We fixed it for them, and we gave them the weapons we had. So Iran is stuck in they want a response, but if I was them, because if you look at their history, Israel has murdered about 5 to 6 Iranian scientists over the last 10 years. Imagine going to another country and killing their scientists. These are nuclear scientists that are Iranians, and I mean, I'm sure every country have nuclear scientists. And imagine the idea of killing people, scientists, academia, as if they only know once they die, the knowledge dies with them. Imagine the patient that Iran has, that 5 to 6 scientists have been murdered in cold blood inside Iran by a so-called terrorist, Mossad, and then destroying the Iranian embassy, and now killing the head of Hamas inside Iran when he was a guest of the Iranian president. It's unbelievable. And Netanyahu wants the war, and the Israeli armies are fucking cowards. If you look at what's going on in Gaza, they're not fighting. Bunch of fucking pussies, man. You think they hide inside the tanks? They don't go inside the village. Why do you think they use an overwhelming force, destroying whole towns and neighborhoods? The only time the infantry comes in, they come with the dogs to see if there's anyone that's still alive, like 1 or 2 people, and they still, because every time they did a battle face to face with Hamas, they backed up and ran away like fucking pussies that they are. The Israelis are cowards. And they found out in 2006 when they had the war with Hezbollah, about 10 to 15 infantry Israelis were arrested because they refused to fight. You understand? So what does Iran do? Iran is stuck right now. If we respond, the United States is occupied by Israel. You understand? Let me show you. Is this the video? One of the videos? This is Bernie Sanders.
Doing right now in their military campaign under Netanyahu's right-wing extremist.
This is Bernie Sanders. He's an American Jew, senator from Vermont, and he's talking about Israel and talking about Netanyahu, what he's doing right now in Israel. This is from his mouth to your
government
ears.
Is horrendous. I personally believe that Netanyahu is also a war criminal. And I think we've got to do everything we can to end that war and to provide immediate humanitarian relief to the women and children and the people in Gaza right now. It is a horrific humanitarian disaster. So I will not be going to listen to Mr. Netanyahu. I think he's a war criminal. I think he never should have been invited.
Bibi Netanyahu is a war criminal, according to Sanders. Now look at our U.S. Congress. Hold on, I gotta fix it. Hold on, so you can see everything. This is somebody did a clip. Is that it? Wait, I gotta get rid of this thing. Wait, hold on for a second, then I'll bring it back. We don't need it. We don't. Okay. Somebody. This is the United States Congress clapping for Bibi Netanyahu when he came in. Look at the top picture and the bottom. Those are Palestinians at the bottom, and those are American Congress, our whores in Congress. I call them whores because they are being pimped by AIPAC. You see that? Huh? Hold on. Let me get rid of this. Now I'm back. This is what happened when he came to the U.S. Congress. He just walked all over them. They were all clapping and screaming and yelling like he was a movie star that came to the United States on a visit. This is unbelievable. You understand? So if you are the Iranian government, what do? The Iranian government should respond lethally. They should attack the Haifa port. They have to hurt Israel this time. The only time Israel is going to respond and going to respect the Iranians, unless the Iranians don't have the weapon, then shut the hell up. What are you doing? You have to hurt them. Don't respond on civilian targets or soft targets. Hit the military and hit them hard. Once, what's going to happen? They declare war on you, then war it is. War it is. If Israel wants a war with Iran, let them have it. You could not just bomb another country and kill a scientist and through terrorism, through assassinations, and through this bullshit, and you are protected by the United States. I don't know why. Because every single person is bought by AIPAC. Iran has to respond in a way that the Israeli have to understand that there is life and death, and they're going to lose a lot of stuff if they continue this behavior. This is a disgusting behavior. It is like a disease that has been leaked. Israel is a disease that is infecting the whole Middle East. They don't belong there. Israel has no right to be in the Middle East, no right to exist as a Zionist country. They have the right to exist within a Palestinian state with Jews and Palestinians, but with Zionism and their behavior and their murders and their plans, they need to be eradicated and removed from the Middle East. And I'm going to tell you, if the Israelis and the Jews around the world think that they have found a safe haven in the Middle East, they better think again. After you kill 50,000 people, it's not going to be a safe haven for you. What are you going to run away from? Because sometimes I hear American politicians, oh, we need, in case something happened, we got a place to go. Yeah, but I mean, you don't start a nation on top of another nation. You don't murder people for straight for 76 years. Who's going to? Do you think you're really making peace? Do you think that with Egypt it's a real peace? It's not a real peace. It's a cold peace. It is a peace with the rulers. The Abrahamic Treaty, remember when they would celebrate it? You know how many people represent these countries? 1.5 million people. The UAE doesn't have any people. The UAE has 10 million people. 8 to 9 million are expats. They are not national. They're indentured servants who come and work like slaves, and they have no rights. And the actual native and citizen of the UAE, which makes Dubai and Abu Dhabi, it's only 1.2 million. And the other country was Bahrain, has about 300,000. So all that BS about we made peace with the Arabs, with the Abrahamic Treaty, the Abrahamic nation only represent 1.5 million. That's not even Brooklyn. I live in Brooklyn, New York. We have 2.8 million people. We are 1 million and a half more people than the people and the countries that made the peace treaty with Israel. Israel is not making peace with anybody. Israel thinks it's going to maintain its existence through a vicious war. Because if you go back in history, there is an essay called "The Iron Wall" by a guy named Dovisky from Lithuania. The Iron Wall was written in 1923, where it says that the only way for us to survive as a nation is to overwhelm our neighbors, overwhelm the natives with unbelievable force, that they will have to make peace through fear, and it's not going to work. 20 years ago, nobody had no drones. 20 years ago, Hezbollah had AK-47s. They could do nothing. Now they could reach any place inside Israel. Israel has nuclear weapons. What are they going to do? Israel is fighting non-actor militias like these Houthis. The Houthis don't really. They are not the. They are not the legitimate government of Yemen. Hezbollah is a militia. Hamas is a militia. The Iraqi coalitions are all militia. So you're fighting a non-entity people, and Israel is going to be like the wildebeest in the desert, and all these dogs or jackals going to bite at you, bite at you, bite at you, bite at you. You could, use your head. You could kill one day, two, get away here, but they're going to bite at your legs. They're going to bite at your back. They're going to slowly but surely, they're going to bring you down to the floor. Israel will not exist in 10 years in the way it is right now. Two things will happen to Israel. Israel will have a civil war, because believe it or not, there are two Israels right now. There is the Messianic Jews who believe that the land was given by God, and they believe that they don't need the United States. They are strengthened by the mighty hands of God. And you have the scumbags, I call them the scumbags, the liberal Zionists, who are liberal but hate the Palestinian and don't want to give the Palestinian their rights. Now you have the Messianic Jews have weapons. They are weaponized. They are trained, and liberal Zionists are drinking latte coffee and iced tea and iced coffee in Tel Aviv and Haifa. They're not going to do nothing. They're going to get rid of them in 3 minutes. But eventually, Israel has to collapse. Before a year ago, I didn't think like that. Before a year ago, my thinking was totally different. I was saying, well, I study politics, so I was watching. All right, so Israel is settling all this land in the West Bank. So the two-state solution is gone because you are settled on all these land. There's no continuity to have a Palestinian state. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they want a one state. Maybe Israel is going to make it one state. Then you see that they pass laws that Israel is only a land for the Jews. And imagine that within Israel, there are ethnic groups. They have 20% Arabs, they have Druze, and they have Christians, they have all kind of ethnicities. And they still, so why are you passing law that Israel, and at the same time, you are taking more and more land to settle inside the West Bank? I told somebody here, his name is Coffee Cup, whatever his name is, and I told him that something is going to happen. Something doesn't look right here. If Israel doesn't want, if it wants to maintain its exclusive right as an ethno state, as a Jewish state, then why is it slowly and surely eating Palestinian land, which eventually they're going to have to incorporate into Israel? So I said, something violent is going to happen. He said, what do you mean? I said, something's got to happen. And at the same time, Israel is making peace with all the Arab countries, but not talking to the Palestinians who they have a problem with. So if you're making peace with everybody else but me, who I am, I'm talking about me as the Palestinians, I said, they're going to kill them. I said it, I swear to God. I said, they're going to get rid of them. They're going to get rid of them. They have to. Because imagine the Zionists have a dilemma inside Palestine and proper Israel. Between the river and the sea, I said it before, they have 7.3 million Arabs, Palestinians. And between the river and the sea, they have 7.3 million Jews. So you can't, if you declare the West Bank and Gaza as part of the Jewish state, you have to give them democracy and you have to give them the vote. Then eventually Israel as a Jewish nation cease to exist as a majority. It'll be just it will be a minority within the state. And they're not going to let that happen. So when this happened, when October 7 happened, a lot of people wonder, why did it happen so easy? Was it that Israel needed a situation like a 9/11 situation where they could have excuse to eradicate 2-3 million Palestinians out of the land? Guess what? That was the plan. The plan was, okay, you did this to us. Now we have to get rid of you. What they were doing is, they tried to push them through the Sinai Desert to Egypt. They were trying to eradicate them first through ethnic cleansing, but nobody would take them. Europe has enough refugees. 10 years ago, they might have taken them, but now they have enough problems with the right-wing movements and the right-wing politics. They don't want no more refugees. The Arab countries are not going to take them, because if they take them, that is a criminal act to liquidate the Palestinian cause and the country. So the Israelis bombed everything. They had this AI in the beginning. It's called Lavender. Oh, it's called Is Daddy Home? Imagine such disgusting. These people are disgusting criminals. The whole idea of this AI was to give them a list of Hamas fighters or suspected fighters. And the only time they attacked was during the night. Are you listening? The only time they killed these people through AI, the AI just picked them. They don't even know they're Hamas or not. And they have to wait at night and they have to listen. If they hear a male voice, they bomb the whole house. Now, what happens in the middle of the night? In the middle of the night, you have families. You're sleeping with your wife, your children, your mother, your father. Most of these Arab countries or the Palestinians are multi-generational homes. They're not like Western society where as soon as you hit 18 years old, hit the road, Jack. You go to a house like me. My mother still lives with me, and I still live, and my kids live here, and my son's wife downstairs they live. So we are a people of generational family behavior. So what they did is they used to wait until the middle of the night, and they will bomb the homes that AI told them to bomb. That's why they were so much. They were killing everybody. And the program was called "Is Daddy Home?" Man, oh, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Na'anat Allah alaykum. Curse on thee. And the whole idea was they were murdering Palestinian men in the middle of the night, not thinking they are sleeping with their wife, their children are there, their mothers, their fathers, and the world just watches. The world just watch. I mean, you just watch. I mean, Biden, who has dementia, that's why we were like, what is he doing? Remember Biden? He'll say, I'm a Zionist. Every time he's, I'm a Zionist. You disgusting scumbag. You're a Zionist. Is that the right time to say it? When children are being killed wholesale, murder? That is unbelievable. Now, through the mass media and through planted stories, they have been demonizing the Palestinians for 70. The Palestinians are the monsters. They are the terrorists. Their leaders are terrorists. We're the good people. We are the chosen people. We are the Jews, the chosen people. Look at us. We got blue eyes. We're almost like you, Western society. So we must be telling the truth. Believe us. Don't believe them. We're just taking over a land that God promised us. According to Netanyahu, and some that it's like leaving your apartment and coming back to your apartment. Netanyahu is not even real a Jew. He's a convert to Christianity. He's a Polish convert from the Ukrainian, the Ashkenazi, who are not really Semites. I'm probably more Jewish than Netanyahu is. And I bet him $1 million that I am, because I am the lineage from the Himyarite kingdom. It was a Jewish kingdom in Yemen and South Arabia. And then it collapsed. Many of them converted to Christianity when Jesus came. Then after that, many converted to Islam. And we had Jews and Christians. And these people are not from there. The 55% of Ashkenaz, they're not from the Middle East. You ever see that guy, Michael Rappert? His face looked like a volcano site, you know? Anyway, let me see if I have some videos. I don't know. Sometime, I want to talk so much. Hey, how you doing? You see, sometimes I'm sorry, I was not looking at Kathy. What's up, man? Oh, I don't know what you wrote, honey. I can't see. Lost my eyesight, people. I don't know. If any doctor is watching, let me know why within a month I just can't see what I used to see. CMC. Catherine Hale. Thank you, Catherine. I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of audience I have here. I don't know who they are. Anyway.
This is not a clash of civilizations. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
Okay, so who's doing the barbarism? You just killed 55,000 people. You just murdered 55,000 people, and who's the barbarism here? Who are the criminals? You. What are you clapping for, you fucking idiots? What are you clapping for? All right, let him go. All right, we got to watch something from, what's his name? Friend Pierre Morgan. It's a little bit old, but I meant to watch it the other day. Now, let me see if I could find it. Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. Give me a second here. Okay. Oh, sweet home, how sweet thee. Okay. Hold on. All right. Is this on? Let's see if I have it. If I have it, we're good. If I don't have it, then she lies, isn't it?
Breaking news, huge explosion in the Lebanese capital of Beirut.
If this is indeed an Israeli strike on Beirut, I think it's an extremely dangerous escalation. Hezbollah is not Hamas. It has the capacity to respond in a way that, frankly, I don't think Israel can quite handle.
Had Israel fought a much more vociferous and intense war at the get-go, we would have probably defeated Hamas and saved a lot more civilian lives.
I expected it to take a little bit longer before Rabbi Fleischer started lying.
You're dealing with fascists in Israel. It's a fascist government, fascist spokesperson. Even the Nazis did not come close to doing that. Nobody can prove that this was a rocket thrown by Hezbollah.
Doesn't matter. If you're Israeli, that's fair game for terrorist organizations, and that is a policy they've had for many, many, many years. The majority, stop interrupting me.
Can you please just take a pause from lying for 1 second?
Israel has threatened a severe response to Hezbollah's rocket attack on a children's playing field in the Golan Heights.
Now, remember, this was a couple of days ago. It's a false flag. Because if you look at the village, there is no. If a rocket is incoming, it usually makes a small crater, right? There was no crater. These were the leftovers of an Iron Dome rocket, and it was probably a false flag. They wanted to kill those kids and use their blood to start a war. Go ahead. What are you doing? All right.
12 children aged between 10 and 16 were killed. This was an attack on Israeli-occupied territory, but the community targeted are Druze Arabs. And the scale of the horror now threatens to tip the region into a second all-out war. Can Israel fight a war against Hezbollah as it continues to pound Hamas in Gaza? Are the repeated attacks by its proxies drawing Israel ever closer to a massive war with Iran? Did Donald Trump have a point when he pointed the finger of blame at the current US president?
Today's attack on Israel cannot be forgotten, and it will go down as another moment in history created by a weak and ineffective United States president and vice president. They wouldn't have done this if I were the president. They wouldn't have done it. And they didn't.
Well, joining me now is Hebron spokesman Rabbi Yishai Fleischer, American-Israeli commentator Emily Schrader, Palestinian-American Middle East analyst Omar Badr, and also be talking to General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative Party, Mustafa Barghouti. Well, welcome to all of you.
Okay. First, the first one, the rabbi is a Russian, not Palestinian, who came from Russia and is stealing Palestinian land and settled in the West Bank. He's a settler. The second one, this lady, she's a failed actress, Jewish failed actress in Hollywood. Turned out, she said, well, I'm going to go to fucking Israel and just lie. And the two other people are real Palestinians who have real roots in Palestine and have a stake in the game. I don't know why this is slow, man. Come on.
Let me start, if I may, with you, Rabbi Fleischer. Your response, first of all, to this appalling attack which killed so many Israeli children.
They're not Israelis, man. Stop lying.
Well, they are Israeli children. They're also Druze, part of our minority that lives in Israel.
No.
I deal with Druze all the time, and I speak to them. They're an Arabic-speaking minority, non-Muslim, and they are angry.
They have Jews inside Israel that are loyal to Israel. But the Jews in this village and the Golan Heights, they have no relationship to Israel, and they view Israel as an occupying power won't even accept Israeli citizenships. And don't you hate the way that Pierre Morgan is a scumbag? Oh, the 12 Israeli children to give the Roma that these are Jewish children.
Angry, of course, at Hezbollah for striking against them, but they're also angry at Israel for not doing more to defend them. And they're saying, you know, with one bombing that happened in Tel Aviv, you guys did an airstrike in Yemen. But now that 12 children have been murdered inside of Israel in our village, you haven't done enough to flatten the bad guys, to get rid of Hezbollah. And so I call on Israeli leaders to act with equal measure, to strike back strong against Hezbollah, protect our Israeli citizens, if they be Jews or Druze. That's what we have to do. We have to push back hard. And whenever I speak to Druze, they're always saying to me, you guys are not strong enough against the jihad. You have to be strong against the jihad. And they know that Middle Eastern people who have lived in Muslim areas throughout their history, and they know that you got to be strong against these guys and push them back. So if we don't push them back, we're going to see more attacks like that, and Israel simply has to be strong and destroy and disarm the enemy to the north. That's the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militia.
But does that mean that there is a preparation going on for an all-out war with Hezbollah? Because if that is the case, the Middle East really is going to go up in flames, isn't it?
Well, Pierce, what are you going to do? The enemy now has 150,000 rockets trained against us.
Remember, I tell you, this is part of the Messianic Jews. He's the one who have the weapons and they have the arm, and this idiot, the lady, she's part of the latte crew in Israel. That's how the civil war is going to happen.
They could, estimates show that they could shoot 5,000 rockets a day at Israel. They have 20,000 regular troops, up to 50,000 reservists. And it's a very serious gun that has been pulled and cocked against our head. So, of course, we're going to have a war at some point to get rid of that threat. There's no other way around it.
Omar Badr, this was an appalling incident, wasn't it?
Of course it was appalling. It's unspeakable, although I expected it to take a little bit longer before Rabbi Fleischer started lying. Let's be clear about a few facts. First of all, we don't know who's responsible for this rocket attack. Hezbollah has not disavowed any of the literally thousands of attacks that they have launched. This one in particular, they instantly said that it has nothing to do with them because they have neither the political incentive nor a military incentive to target an Arab Druze town in the occupied Golan Heights. And it's quite frankly, at this point, between their denial and the fact that there is no independent investigation, it's not really clear who's responsible for this. But more importantly, and contrary to what Rabbi Fleischer just claimed, the families of the victims want nothing to do with further war. They have refused to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. They have refused to allow Israeli politicians to attend their kids' funerals. You can see video of them yelling at them to leave. And there was just a piece in Israel's leading newspaper today, Haaretz, talking about how the majority of the Jewish community don't want the blood of their children to be used to essentially fulfill further bloodshed and the agenda of this fanatical Israeli government that is using this tragedy in order to promote more war. And the last thing I'll say, Piers, that I think is really, really important. If this incident were to take place 1,000 times over, it still would not come close to the death toll in children that Israel has inflicted in Gaza over the past 9 months. So anybody who's actually serious and sincerely concerned about the killing of children and violence should be insisting on an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the handing of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the people around him to The Hague for the war crimes they have committed against tens of thousands of innocent civilians over the past several months.
Okay, before I go to Emily, if it wasn't Hezbollah, who was it?
Look, there's many possibilities, right? It could be potentially an errant Hezbollah rocket. It could be another group that launched it, or it could be a potential misfire of an Iron Dome missile or something. We're not really sure. The one thing that we do know, Piers, is that the Israeli government lies through its teeth time and time again. They lied about who's responsible for the killing of Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. They lied about 40 beheaded babies on October 7th. They're just a machine of lies. And so you have to get an independent investigation to actually look into this and sort it all out. But even if it does turn out to be a Hezbollah rocket, if that is indeed what the evidence points to, it's almost certainly an accident because there is no incentive for that target to actually take place. And we should be looking to de-escalate tensions, not rising them up. That's how you actually save the future of the region and pull us back from the brink of war. You work towards de-escalation, and you certainly don't allow this warmongering Israeli government to continue with this plan to wreak havoc throughout the entire region to achieve a level of dominance that it no longer has, and it's desperate to hold on to.
All right, Emily Schroeder, your response.
I mean, I think it's highly ironic that he has the audacity to come on your show and talk about how Israel is targeting children when we're looking at what Hezbollah has done. Hezbollah leaders such as Samir Kuntar, who literally...
Imagine how could she has a straight face to go on a show and try to deflect the murder of 17,000 children and try to claim the kinship to 12 Druze Arab, Syrian Arab in a Syrian village have nothing to do. It's unbelievable how these people lie. They are almost scary. When they lie, I get scared. I swear to God. No, this is not
really murdered an Israeli child face-to-face with the butt of his rifle. Hezbollah, who in previous wars murdered 50% of the civilians who were killed, were actually Arab Israeli citizens. There were rockets coming down onto majority Arab towns like Nazareth, killing Arab Israeli babies. There has been no differentiation by terrorist organizations when it comes to targeting Israeli citizens, whether they're Druze or Arab, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter. If you're Israeli, that's fair game for terrorist organizations. And that is a policy they've had for many, many, many years. There is no reason to believe that suddenly Hezbollah wouldn't be targeting children. It's patently absurd.
These kids were not Israeli.
It's patently absurd. And also what he's saying, about the Jewish communities, the majority, stop interrupting me. The majority,
you're lying, ho.
Fight side by side. They fight side by side in the IDF. They fight side by side. I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. It's nonsense, and I'll tell you why. Because the Druze in Majdan Shams were all offered citizenship, and they are eligible for citizenship anytime they want to take it. Whether or not they were citizens, they are eligible for it, and they are entitled to Israeli citizens. Some of them were Israeli citizens. I do not know that 100% of them. I do not know if 100%. Let me speak.
Stop lying about who these children are. They're not
you have been lying the entire time. You came on here and tried to say that Hezbollah.
Please don't talk over each other.
Hezbollah has no incentive.
Yeah, Omar, with respect, Emily let you speak.
Yeah, but you have to fact check her, Piers. She's lying.
Hang on. Emily, you can speak. Omar, I did let Omar. You did speak without it. Omar, you spoke without interruption. Let Emily respond, and I will then come back to you. But let her respond.
Sounds good. Go for it.
Israeli citizens in the Golan Heights are entitled to Israeli citizenship. They have been offered, and many of them have accepted. The numbers are actually going up over time. In addition to that, I, as a journalist, have spoken to people in Majdan Shams.
You see how she said they've been offered citizenship. And it's going up over time. That's 50 years since they started offering them citizenship. They don't want to be part of Israel.
Excuse me, since this started, they are very, very clear about what they want. And frankly, Yishai is correct. The Druze community doesn't put up with terrorist behavior, such as what Hezbollah did. And the idea that Hezbollah doesn't have an incentive to target Israeli children, whether Arab or Jewish, is absurd. Because since their existence, since they were founded, this is a policy that they have had. They have targeted civilians. That is why they're a terrorist organization. And I want to remind everyone of one more thing, that this terrorist organization is a direct proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're acting at the direction and at the behest of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And the rocket which was fired, according to Israeli sources and according to the IDF itself, was an Iranian-made rocket. So the Iran fingerprints from the Islamic Republic are all over this, the same as they are with every terrorist organization that Israel is dealing with now. And I agree with Yishai that we need to deliver a very, very strong deterrent, not punishment. This isn't about revenge. This is about deterring Hezbollah from attacking Israeli citizens. And they have sent over 6,000 rockets since October 8th.
Not enough.
This warmongering here is patently absurd.
All right. May I respond to this avalanche of violence at this point?
Let me just let Omar. Hang on, please. Omar, you respond to what Emily just said. Then I'm going to go to Rabbi Fleischer.
Sure. Two things. First of all, she said these were Israeli children, and we could see when the Israeli military spokesperson was addressing this incident that he was interrupted by other Israeli officials to point out that they're not, in fact, Israeli. The Golan Heights are occupied Syrian territory, and a significant portion of the Syrian Druze community that lives in them refused Israeli citizenship, which tells you something. And the other thing about what these children and their families
But
want.
Omar, do we actually, Omar, do we know how many of the children who died were Israeli citizens?
None.
I'm not entirely sure if any of them were or not, but I can tell you there is one thing that is really clear at this point, Piers, that I think is really important, is you can listen to Emily and Rabbi Fleischer tell you about what the families of these kids want, or you can listen to the families themselves, who are widely quoted in the Israeli press, talking at this point about the fact that they don't want the blood of their children to be used as justification for further bloodshed. And they have referred to Netanyahu as a war criminal, and they want nothing to do with this government. So yes, you can listen to these propagandists tell you what their interpretation of these events are, or you can talk directly to the families of these children who were killed with this really incredibly tragic and horrifying incident and find out what they actually want. And it has nothing to do with the lies that we've just heard from Ishai and from Emily.
So,
Okay,
first of all,
Rabbi Fleischer,
I mean, family, so there's not a
hang on,
consensus on that.
Emily,
there's not a consensus at all.
Emily, let me go to Rabbi Fleischer, please. Rabbi Fleischer, I mean, it's complex, this particular story, for the reasons that we are now discussing in this debate, is that we don't actually know how many, if any, of these children were Israeli school children. I assumed that most of them were. That appears not to be the case. Do you have any information which can say unequivocally either way?
I'm a little bit at wonderment at your question, as though it matters. These guys live, they're citizens or residents of Israel. What does it matter? They were shot at by Hezbollah, which shoots into Israel. So we have all kinds of folks, minorities living in our land, all kinds. If they were Arab, that would be okay. They killed 12 kids because they're trying to shoot at Israel, one way or the other. So that's what this is about. What exactly the identity of the kids were, is that really important, Piers? I don't quite understand the question.
No, listen, I think it doesn't change the fact these children have been killed.
I work with Jews every single day. I always ask them, I say to them, tell me candidly, what do you think about living in Israel? They're like, great country, but you guys are weak. You guys are weak vis-a-vis the jihad.
He's a fucking racist piece of shit. He's one of the settlers that live in the West Bank who beat up Palestinians, kill them, and take their homes every day. He is the right-wing Messianic movement in Israel that has weapons, and they're going to be used against this idiot. Her name is Emily, sooner or later, eventually.
I hear that every day. I work with them. They're in the army in Hebron.
Yeah.
I deal with them. They're in the civil administration. And I always say to them candidly, tell me, they're like, you guys are too weak. So what does it matter what exactly the status of these kids are? The kids should not be murdered by folks who, what they do is arm themselves with 150,000 rockets, Iranian paid, ready to shoot at Israel. It happened to have hit some Druze kids. Tomorrow will be Jewish kids. What's the difference?
Okay, well, let me turn to Palestinian kids who were killed. 30 people, including women and children, were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a school in central Gaza on Saturday.
Yep, nothing happened. No condemnation of the United States.
What is your response to that, Rabbi Fleischer?
It happens. It happens.
It's a tragedy of war. And this is exactly Hamas's strategy for this war. They and their fighters will live in tunnels underneath Gaza. They will fire rockets into Israel. They will.
So if Palestinian children are killed in school, it is the tragedy of war. What are we going to do? War is war. We're going to kill 15,000 and it's war. But we're going to claim that 12 Arab children died in an Arab village in a Syrian occupied territory, and we're going to claim them as ours just to use them as a false flag to respond to Hezbollah inside Lebanon. It's very, very interesting.
Sending the terrorists to kill, maim, and murder. Then they'll keep the civilians on top while they live in their, tunnel hotels underneath, and make sure that there's more dead babies, so that they could use that in the media as a strategy, as another way of striking at Israel. So it's horrific.
But how many terrorists were killed? Okay, but hang on. How many terrorists were killed in that airstrike?
Piers, it's a war. I'm not here. I'm not an army spokesman. I'm not here to tell you exactly numbers. You're kind of getting today into these,
but if Hezbollah? Okay, but here's my point. If Hezbollah,
I promise you, Piers, nobody was targeting these children.
let me make my position. If Hezbollah suddenly said, yeah, we fired that rocket which killed the 12 children, right? The 12 children who were killed after this attack in Gaza. Yes, we fired that rocket. It's war. That's what war involves. You would be incandescent with rage that the lives of so many innocent children had been destroyed, and Hezbollah's response was simply, this is war. What is the difference ideologically if they were to take that position to what Israel and you've just said about the killing of so many innocent people in Gaza?
I think that's a very fair question, but I think that the answer is obvious. Israel is an ethnic minority in our region trying to survive. We are now surrounded by a proxy noose around us.
Yes,
Hezbollah,
it's a noose,
Hamas,
inshallah.
the Houthis, and probably more through from Iraq. And these are all Iranian tentacles. It's a noose that's tightening around us. We're fighting for our survival. And the enemies are shooting into Israel to try to destroy us and try to goad us into killing more of their kids, because that's part of their strategy.
Yeah.
When they do it, they're trying to destroy Israel. When we do it, God forbid, when we try not to, we're trying.
So when the Palestinians fight, they just want the Jews to kill their children. You understand? Because they use their children as a way, fuck you, fuck your fucking ethno thinking. Fuck you piece of shit. Palestinians want their children dead. They want you to kill them. That they put them out for you so you could kill them? Huh? This is the problem with these people. They see a value in their life more than they see a value in Palestinian life. Palestinians to them are subhumans. They don't care. You understand? These people are dangerous, not only to Palestine, even to the United States of America. You'll see.
Trying to defend ourselves and to defend our ethnic minority in the region. So we're fighting a defensive war. They're fighting an offensive war of destruction.
Yeah. He stole a land, huh?
But when you say that you're fighting a defensive
Pierce, if I may.
hang on, Emily, hang on. I will come to you next. When you say you're fighting a defensive war, what the critics of the way that Israel has executed this war will say is that, yes, what happened October 7th was horrific. 1,200 people murdered, including many, many innocent women and children. Nearly 7,000 more wounded, some of them horrifically. Yes, that was a despicable terror attack, but the scale of Israel's response in Gaza alone has been unbelievably disproportionate, that you're now up to 35, 40,000 people being killed. Again, on Saturday, not really reported that much because it becomes the norm that 30 people are killed by an Israeli airstrike, 100 plus more injured, many, many women and children killed and wounded. And this is going on an almost daily basis. And there seems to be no apparent plan by Israel's government for what happens at the end of this, or indeed how it ends.
Pierce, let me use this opportunity then to actually criticize my government as well. I think that Israel should have fought this war much harder right at the beginning. In the first 2 weeks,
Much harder. The first 3 weeks, it was like 10,000 people dead, you piece of shit. These people are fucking insane. They wanted to fight more harder. They didn't fight harder enough. So what are they going to destroy? The skies?
We should have shut down the electricity and
They
the water and the fuel.
They did all that.
Dried out the terrorists. We should have turned off all those turbines that bring air into those tunnels. We should have fought a very hard and fast war instead of a drawn-out 10-month war where we still haven't even destroyed Hamas. And so I'm a critic of that as well. I say that had Israel fought a much more vociferous and intense war at the get-go, we would have probably defeated Hamas and saved a lot more civilian lives. When you draw it out, when you let the international community send in food, which then gets taken by Hamas for their fighters, and you slow everything down and you make it into a war of attrition, more and more people die. And so I say, be much more aggressive, quick, strong, push back on the bad guys. And I agree with you 1,000%. I couldn't agree even more that Israel does not have an endgame strategy. As I've said on your show previously, people like myself believe that Israel should govern Gaza, re-govern Gaza militarily, and then slowly but surely resettle it. And of course, give decent Arabs, Palestinians who are pro-Israel, who are anti-jihad, which there are millions of them. There are millions that are sadly pro-jihad, but there are millions who are against it and want a decent life with Israel. This is our ancestral land. This is part of the mandate for Israel. And so this is the place that we should govern. I might even be in disagreement with some of my colleagues in Israel, but people like myself, believe that we should be bigger, bolder, hold on to that land. And that's the end game strategy, which is to govern that place, rid it of jihad, rebuild it, give decent people an opportunity for a decent life. Only Israel can ensure that. Certainly not the Palestinian Authority, certainly not Hamas or some kind of international consortium. It's not going to work. It never worked. And they're just going to rebuild the jihad if you let them. And I say destroy the jihad, govern the place, give decent people an opportunity for a life again in Gaza.
Let me go to the General Secretary of the Palestinian National Initiative Party, Mustafa Barghouti. Mustafa Barghouti, thank you for joining me. Your response to what you just heard from Rabbi Fleischer.
Well, there are several things. I think what was described is nothing but a fascist point of view. You're dealing with fascists in Israel. It's a fascist government, fascist spokesperson who are advocating not only killing Palestinians, but also cutting off electricity and water and starving people to death. What is this? Even the Nazis did not come close to doing that. It's a horrible Holocaust that Israel is conducting in Gaza.
Look at that fucking
and it's not
ugly
defensive.
Bitch. Why are you making these faces?
No army can
Why?
claim it is defensive when it is occupying another people and another country. And it cannot call itself defensive when it is committing and conducting a system of apartheid against another people. And speaking about children, 16,800 Palestinian children killed by the Israeli army. That doesn't count. Aren't we equal human beings or not? 50,000 people killed, 72% of them are women and children. More than 90,000 people injured so far, many of whom will die because Israel has destroyed all hospitals, all medical facilities, all services. And they speak about defensive war. What kind of defensive war? This is an aggression, a terrible aggression. And the cause of that, I don't want to repeat what we told you on many times on your program. Before the 7th of October, there was ethnic cleansing of Palestinians for 76 years. There was occupation of Palestinian land for 57 years. There was a system of apartheid and oppression. There were 1 million people arrested in the occupied Palestinian territories. And by the way, about the Golan, nobody can prove that this was a rocket thrown by Hezbollah. And Hezbollah asked for an international investigation. Why Israel refuses that? Why Israel refuses to have an international investigation of
Hezbollah said, listen, if you're claiming that we bombed these kids, bring an international investigation team from the United Nations to investigate and see who did it. If we did it, then we'll apologize and reimburse these families. But we want to know who was the real villain. This was just a fire starter to create what's going on here. The assassination of the number 2 in Hezbollah, assassination of the Hamas leader inside Iran. The problem with the Hamas killing is you are not only killing a person who was part of the political wing, not an armed wing, but you are murdering a person inside another country, not respecting their sovereignty as a way to get a war started so you can bring the United States in. The United States has to be careful. Netanyahu is an evil piece of shit. He's dangerous to America, and he's dangerous even to Israel itself. You'll see. Go, brother.
what happened in the Golan Heights. And the Golan Heights are occupied Syrian territories. And the citizens there are Syrian citizens, not Israeli citizens. They are occupied by force. And they don't want to be Israeli citizens. They're very clear about that. And at the end of the day, let them allow an international investigation committee to check what's going on. I am so worried about the situation, not only because of the injuries and the killing on our people, but also about the fact that now Gaza Strip is totally devastated in the worst kind of man-made humanitarian crisis. More than 1.5 million people are stuck now in a very little strip with no food, no medicine, no shelter, no place to go to, and the bombardment continues. Just because Netanyahu doesn't want to stop this war, and just because Netanyahu wants to save his guts, and wants to continue this war because he knows that the end of this war means the end of his political career. This is terrible. And I can see that what we see in Israel, unfortunately, is the rise of fascism. And the proof to that is what you have seen yesterday when the Israeli fascists attacked even Israeli soldiers because they wanted to investigate the cases of in Sdeti Man prison, or concentration camp, I should say, where Palestinian prisoners were tortured to death. They were beaten, they were starved, they were shocked with electrical shocks, they were hanged, and some of them had their hands amputated because of the chains that were put on them, and some of them were raped. Sexual abuse and rape happened in Israeli prison, Sdeti Man, by Israeli soldiers. That's not my report, it's the Washington Post report. How could Israel live with that and still claims it is a democracy and claims that it is supporting human rights and that it is conducting a defensive war?
Okay, let me go to Emily Schrader. I mean, Emily Schrader, the charge there is that Israel's become a fascist state and that it's committing torture and rape and other heinous crimes against Palestinians in prison. What is your response to that?
I mean, I think that the reports are horrifying, of course. I know that this is under investigation and that several of the soldiers in question have been arrested and are currently undergoing interrogation. And yes, there have been several incidents of riots outside of army bases. One of them, I think, was actually they breached into that, and it's disgraceful behavior, and it runs contrary to our laws, which is why there were arrests related to this. And I think you know, he asked, how can Israel claim that they're a democracy when there are incidents such as what was reported? It remains to be seen if that's verified or not, but for now we'll assume that it is the case. How can that happen in a democracy? And the answer is when that happens, or if that happens in a democracy, those people are arrested and those people are tried. That is.
In this jail, ladies and gentlemen, in this jail, there are people who had their hand amputated. They cut off their arms or their legs, because they had them in these positions for so many hours on purpose. This is not me saying it. This is the New York Times, the Washington Post. This is not something I'm just trying to score a point against these fucking idiots. They said that some of them, their arms were amputated because they lacked so much blood that they had to cut it off after a while. And there's a lot of mass rape. And they play music, so loud music, 24 hours a day, that some of the prisoners, the ears are bleeding. What I'm telling you is Israel is a Scrooge on the Middle East. The Palestinians are facing the worst enemy. It's like having every cancer that the body could get, and this is who their enemy is. Their enemy is sophisticated, well-funded, and well-entrenched in international finance, in the international media, in international politics. The Palestinians have nobody. Just now, social media has brought their problem to light. But before this, they had nobody. You know, they are just brought pressure as terrorists, and they like to kill children. They like to kill people. Not saying what the source of the problem is, that they are under occupation. When you look at the whole war, what is the objective of Israel's war in Gaza? The way is to maintain an occupation, colonial-like colonies, without giving them full rights or their freedom to self-determination or be part of the Israeli states. You understand? So they have no reason. I mean, they have no future.
Is what should happen in a democracy, and I do think that those incidents do need to be investigated. And if you really want to know how democratic Israel is, all you have to know is that today the state of Israel was actually speaking to some of the terrorists who were involved in the October 7th massacre in order to investigate the treatment of Palestinian prisoners. Now, I don't condone everything, certainly everything that's been reported.
Sorry about that,
everything
Verb.
that I've heard. I think it's absolutely horrendous if it does turn out that is true as reported. However, the fact that we are investigating it alone shows that you look at how people reacted to what happened on October 7th. You know, Hamas tried to claim falsely that rape wasn't something that was condoned. It turns out from the materials that were recovered from the terrorists themselves, including their instructions that were given to them by Hamas, in those instruction booklets, they had religious approval to commit acts of sexual violence.
These people lie without it. You know, the Jews are bad liars, believe it or not. Oh, that's what we found out. She's saying that the Hamas, who attacked on October 7, actually had instructions to rape women religiously. Now, why? You know why she's saying that is because 3 days ago in the Knesset, the Israeli lawmakers were debating whether it's legally okay to rape Palestinian men. Now, you have to imagine that at first they said they had booklets of where the schools are. Then it was such a big lie because it was Yom Kippur, there's no schools open. So why would you go to schools that are closed? Then they said they had nuclear. I mean, they're just bad lies, man. You know, I think this is God just said the Jewish have been bad liars in this crisis. They just make it up shit as they go. Unbelievable. What happened? I think the internet here is slow.
Against civilians that day, which was committed against both men and women, as we have seen from survivors as well as
Lie.
survive.
Unproven,
Reports as well as from
debunked
the
by
terrorists
every
themselves who
newspaper
carried
in the
them out.
United
Most of them have
States.
admitted this during
Lie.
investigations. In addition to that, what we also found on the terrorists was that there was a list of words of how to say certain phrases in Hebrew. A lot of them make sense in order for the terrorist operation that they were carrying out, you know, certain terminology that they needed in order to get around physically. But something that really stuck out to me when I looked into this is that on that list of words that they learned how to say in Hebrew to their victims was take off your clothes and take off your pants. Now you tell me, why would someone open your legs?
I swear on everything I love that this bitch just made it up. She just pulled it right out of her ass. Right out of her ass. As he was talking, he said, how can I lie so bad that my handlers in Tel Aviv will say, well, you know, she's a good liar. You know, she was a failed actress in Hollywood and she had to leave. She's from California. So, you know, she could not do the porno industry. So she's a good liar. But it's such a fucking lie. She just pulled it right out of her ass, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, they just learned these words. They speak fluent Hebrew, stupid. You've been occupying them for 57 years. You don't think they speak Arabic? They need to fucking learn this word? Come on.
And take off your clothes. Why would someone need to open their legs in order for any security purpose whatsoever?
Well, I don't think
we know that rape was a strategy.
Well, I have no doubt that there was sexual abuse, including rape, perpetrated on that day.
Yes, but the response of Hamas is the difference.
Well, okay,
because what we see in response to that isn't that Hamas investigated it. Israel is investigating. Israel's investigating, and those people, if they committed that, should be prosecuted. They should be imprisoned. Hamas doesn't do that. Hamas praises it.
I understand that. But if it turns out that these Israelis soldiers have been perpetrating these crimes, it is just as despicable as the sexual abuse and rapes that were committed by the other side. So we should all be able to agree on that. But let me ask you on the wider point.
Yes.
I don't understand how this war ends. Gaza is being completely flattened. The people are being displaced now to places where they're getting continually bombed. We had 30 plus people killed at the weekend in an airstrike on an area they've been told to go to.
On a school.
You know, where does this end? What does victory look like for Israel? Because right now, it's very, very hard to see what victory is.
There is no victory.
I mean, I think that Israel does need to come up with a better strategy. I actually agree with you, Shai Fleischer, on that. I do not agree with him, however, about resettling Gaza. That's something even the Prime Minister flatly rejected, even in his speech in Congress, and I'm not a supporter of his. So that being said, I don't think that's on the agenda. I think that Israel needs to come up with a plan in order to allow Palestinians to have their own self-determination in that territory at some point. A two-state solution, not something we can even speak about now, unfortunately, because I think far too much of the population rejects the right of Israel to exist in any capacity. But there does need to be a longer-term strategy when it comes to this. I also have to mention that part of the reason this has continued to go on is because Hamas continues to hold those hostages. I mean, if you give back those hostages, you're taking away a lot of incentive. I mean, Hamas has been really demoralized. They've really been destroyed for the majority.
How many lies do I have to sit here
majority.
before I get a chance to focus on
the majority of this organization. But I do think that Israel needs to come up with a better plan for a long-term exit strategy when it comes to dealing with Gaza, and also.
Well, I don't think, with respect, I don't think Israel has a plan at all. That's the problem. Let me go to Omar Badar again. You were shaking your head there as you heard what Emily said. Why?
Practically for 20 minutes straight. I mean, look, Rabbi Fleischer's views, I think, are quite honest and transparent. He thinks Israel is not genociding Gaza hard enough and wants them to genocide them harder. Wants a war of conquest where Israel takes over whatever lands it wants that actually don't belong to Israel under international law. So none of it merits a response. I think the fascism in what he has to say is quite blatant for the audience. But when Emily engages in this kind of systematic dishonesty, I do think that it is really worth responding to. One, on the question of the torture of Palestinian prisoners. You have a situation in which every major human rights organization in the world, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, even Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem and others, say that there is systematic torture of Palestinians in Israeli dungeons, and the fact that there is no accountability, and this, for the most part, happens with complete and total impunity. In this case, there happens to be a particularly egregious case.
Why are you shaking your head like that?
Of a Palestinian prisoner who was gang raped by the 9th soldiers, and when there is overwhelming evidence and there are horrific injuries that have emerged from that, there is an effort to arrest these soldiers who are involved in this. And what you end up with is riots. Not just riots by random fanatics on the streets like Rabbi Fleischer and his friends and others, but by ministers in the Israeli government, where you have literally a minister sitting in the Knesset talking about how rape of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli dungeons is okay by him. This is stuff that is being said by government ministers. And I'm sorry, when a society has disintegrated into this level, where people who are supposed to represent a country in government,
they have no right to exist. Israel is gone. Israel has no right to exist.
Gang rape. You know, something is terribly, terribly wrong.
Inshallah, he will collapse.
You have to get to the point to where you actually start engaging with the small but important human rights community that exists within Israel to start talking about what shifts need to happen in order to push Israel in a more moral direction. And as far as what can happen in Gaza with moving forward at this point, the reason we are here is because Israel insists. I mean, look, we can get into a million different details about what happens at this incident and that war, but the fundamental reality is Israel rules over millions of Palestinians. It denies them equal rights. It denies them the right to a state. It steals their land at will. It robs them of their water. It kills their children at will, engages in every single imaginable war crime that you can imagine against this entire people who are subject and held without any freedom or human rights. And as long as we are in that situation, unfortunately, the phrase "no justice, no peace" is not just some empty slogan. It's not just a protest slogan. It's a description of what human nature is, that in any situation where you have injustice against the people who are being held without rights, that is a recipe for conflict. And if we are, once again, serious about getting out of a situation of perpetual conflict, we have to move towards recognizing Palestinians as equal human beings.
Okay, but Omar,
who
how do you see?
That does not exist.
I understand.
But presumably you don't see any future for Hamas in any kind of government role in Gaza.
He does that all the time.
Look,
why not?
In the long term, we have to move towards rejecting all forms of violence. But again, justice is a prerequisite for that. And what the problem that you have right now, Piers, is that you have a fascist, monstrous, genocidal government on one side practicing apartheid for decades, gets to carry out wanton violence. And then we're asking the question of, should Hamas exist or not? Yes, obviously, in an ideal world, Hamas would not exist, but Hamas is a natural product of the policies that Israelis impose on Palestinians, that whenever you abuse and humiliate and deny people their freedom for this long, people are going to gravitate towards violence, and that's how groups like Hamas form in the first place. So are we just going to sloganeer about which groups should exist or not exist, or are we interested in solving a problem? And if we are interested in solving it, there is no denying that our complicity in Israel's war of conquest for decades now, stealing land in the West Bank, occupying the Golan Heights, imposing a suffocating siege on the people of Gaza and denying them water and electricity and all of this, that's a recipe for more conflict. And we have to end international support for this regime until that apartheid system falls, and then we can move forward towards a better future. And that is a future in which Hamas would not exist, because people who are calling for violence on the Palestinian side would not find any support, because Palestinians would see that there is a prospect for a better future and justice and human rights.
Rabbi Fleischer, you know, my problem. Hang on, Emily.
Emily, shut up, you piece of shit.
Rabbi Fleischer.
She always, put
my
her
problem with what you
lips
said
together.
earlier when I spoke
Okay,
to you,
okay, look.
was that you basically outlined a situation where what
fuck
you
you do your
wished
mouth like
had
that?
happened was
She
that
need
very
facial
early on
surgery.
October the 7th, Israel turned off, I think you said, the water, the power, the food. And then you talked about Israel basically taking over the whole of Gaza at the end of this. That is an occupation. I mean, that is pure evidence, is it not?
You don't see that. He sees that as
Israel is
look
an
at he's laughing.
occupying country.
The Ruski from
what
Russia.
You're saying is you have the
You're a
ability
Russian. Go back to
to
Russia.
control the on and off switch for Palestinians to have food, to have power, to have water. And at the end of it, you want to just go in and take it over anyway. That is the purest embodiment of an occupation. Both the power levers you have to control whether they eat or have power or whatever, and secondly, your desire for just taking over the entire Gaza Strip at the end of it.
Yep.
So let me clarify. First thing is, let's remember that when you start wars, then the other side wars back at you, right? They started a horrific war against us. That's what happens. You start with Israel, with the Jewish people.
Talking
you try
points.
to destroy them and injure them. Expect us to fight back with ruthlessness and with seriousness to destroy you back. That's what happens. When you have a society that supports the Hamas, that's what happens. So first thing is, like, remember that wars are not pretty things. If you start a war against, you're an aggressor, accept the idea that the other side is going to push back hard. You can't start a war and then be like, hey, look what you're doing to me. That's what happens when you start a war.
Hang on. Okay, Rabbi Fleischer, let me just clarify. I'm not disputing that Israel had an absolute right and duty to defend itself and was obviously going to respond with significant force. I was really pointing out that what you said was they should have turned off the power, the water, the food. It's Israel's ability to do that is part of the problem. That is what an occupying force does. It has that control over food, over water,
we are neighbors with
over
Gaza.
electricity.
We gave away Gaza
and
in
I don't think there
2005.
could be. Yeah, but how can there be a future for Palestinians if, out of all this horror, Israel continues to be able to control the ability of Palestinians to eat or have power?
Thank you. Once in a while, he's a fucking human being.
Please, let's
Now, watch this fucking douchebag. Watch him.
let's be clear. Every power in the world controls other minorities. You have a British accent at some point. You know, England controlled a lot of the world, but there's all kinds of minorities that live in England to this very day. Every power, if it's the Turks
Yeah, but Gaza's not part of Israel. This is the problem. You're lying.
or the Iranians or the Egyptians, and any power in the world has other minorities living inside of it. We have an Arab minority living within the Jewish state. The Jewish area is a tiny area within the Arab majority. There are minorities living in the Middle East, like the Kurds, like the Israelis, who are armed and defend themselves. Now, we have neighbors that have attacked us. We're pushing back on those neighbors. And please be accurate about let's quote me accurately. What I said was, had we fought a more ruthless war from the get-go, it would have been done in 2 weeks, we would have saved countless of civilian lives, because when you draw it out, that's when people die. When you make it fast and furious, which is the Israeli military doctrine, then you save a lot of lives. I wanted to see Israel destroy the terrorists and the tunnel system from the get-go quickly and not kind of be slow about it, thereby saving a lot of civilians. Now, I believe that this is our land from the get-go. Gaza is not Palestinian. It's never been Palestinian. That's a recently created narrative. It was
a lie.
wrestled away from Egypt. We're actually liberated away from Egypt in the 6-day war. We took control of it. There's minorities living there. Good. They could live under Israel. Minorities live under Israel. Puerto Ricans live under America. It happens. There's such a thing as minorities. I say control that area. Give people a chance for life.
You're a dumb
Doesn't mean
motherfucker, man.
occupation.
See my land.
The word occupation
I
itself.
know, I'm going to lose my money.
Speaking of lies, I've been called on this program, by the way, Pierce, I've been called every name. Fascist, liar, apartheidist, every word. Except there's one word that's missing from the lexicon of my interlocutors on this program, which is jihad. They make it look like Hamas is some kind of like human rights organization fighting for liberation and equality and a two-state solution. Read the jihad charter, the Hamas charter, that is full of the ideas that the Jewish people
going to
should be
resort to talking
destroyed,
points.
that Israel is some kind of crusader continuation of
He's resorting to talking points. Read the Hamas literature. They are resistance fighters. They are freedom fighters trying to get you off their
real
land.
intention is. So
That's
the
it.
people that are with me on the program, they are basically the sheep. They are wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yep,
they
they're
dress
evil.
up like liberals. They talk the stuff that Western folks, you know, can understand apartheid and all that stuff. But in their heart, they have jihad. They want to destroy Israel. Ask them when the occupation began. They'll tell you 1948, or they'll tell you 1917. They want to see the end of Israel as a Jewish state altogether.
Let's hope.
That's
Let's
what this
God
is about. So
please
they dress
end
up in
Israel.
these clothes. They come on to the show. They talk about Israel being an occupier, i.e., Israel's not an ancient country, not an ancient people. They don't belong in this region. They need to be evicted altogether. That's what they want. They want to erase Israel and replace it with the Palestine, which they created in the 60s.
All right, now get the
That's what
dick
this
off
thing
your
is
mouth.
about. And they put on the airs of liberalism for ears like yours.
Okay, let me just go to Emily, because there is some breaking news. Sky News Arabia is reporting a huge explosion in the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Now, if that is a retaliatory strike by Israel against the, as they see it, Hezbollah rocket attack that killed 12 Druze and Israeli children, what is your reaction to that? And how concerned should...
They're not Israeli Jewish... you're still lying. They're not Israeli Jewish kids. Didn't we establish it in the middle of the show in the beginning?
We all be that if this is an Israeli strike at the heart of Beirut, that this is now a dramatic escalation.
Yeah, right. Fuck you. You know, I got upset at him. Because he's still repeating the same talking points they tell him to repeat. They're not Israeli Jewish students. They're not nothing about that. Anyway, guys, we had a good time, right? I haven't been on here for a whole, almost 3 weeks. I was depressed, man. I had depression, man. Yeah, I got depressed, man. I don't know what it is, man. All of a sudden, everything was foggy. My head is still, man. Today, I feel great, thank God. Let's hope it continues, man. You know, I don't have mental illness. I don't have that. I'm mentally fine. All right. Let it go. All right. Thank you very much, my friends. Love you all. And this is it.
Palestinian struggle is not just a cry for justice. It's a blistering battle for the most fundamental human rights that every living soul on this planet should inherit by birthright.
Do we have